Welcome back to the deep dive. I'm really, really excited for this one.
Oh, yeah.
Usually, you know how we operate. We're often looking forward. We're talking about the next wave of AI or some breakthrough in fusion energy or a geopolitical shift that's going to change the map next year.
We are pretty future focused.
We are obsessed with the future. But today, to really understand how things break, how big, massive, seemingly invincible things break, we have to go back. Way back.
Okay.
We are looking at the ultimate breakup.
And just to be clear for everyone listening, we aren't talking about, a celebrity divorce.
No.
We aren't talking about a band splitting up because the lead singer wanted a solo career. We are talking about a civilization level fracture.
Right.
A breakup so profound and so complete that it literally split the map of the world and defined the history of the West for 1,000 years.
We are talking about the Great Schism of 1054.
There it is.
Now, I know what you're thinking. I can hear the collective, from the listeners. You hear 1054 and schism, and you think, okay, this is going to be dates, dusty robes, and guys with long beards arguing about candles.
And I mean, to be fair, there were probably some arguments about candles.
There were probably some candles involved, yes.
Yeah.
But stick with me, because the source material we have today, it is wildly different from your standard history book.
It is. The text we are diving into is titled East and West, The Great Divide, from the collection Texto Colado.
And it does not read like a textbook.
Not at all. It doesn't read like a dry recitation of facts.
It reads like a poetic autopsy. That's the only way I can describe it.
That's a great way to put it.
It's tracing the death of a unified idea, the fracture of the Christian church. But it does it with this incredible rhythm. It's almost sorrowful. It talks about trust fading and letters turning sharp. It treats this massive geopolitical event as a tragedy of human relationship.
Which is why it is such a perfect document for a deep dive. Because our mission today isn't to get you to memorize the date 1054.
No.
If you leave here just knowing the date, we failed. The goal is to unpack how it happened. How did a single unified entity, which the source describes beautifully as moving together, drift so far apart that it eventually just snapped?
And the kicker, the thing that really hooked me on this source, is that it suggests this wasn't inevitable because of some war over land or resources.
Right, it wasn't about gold.
It wasn't about gold. It wasn't about territory boundaries initially. The source argues it was a war of ideas, of identity, and ultimately a failure of communication.
Exactly. It highlights that the wedge wasn't driven by armies or blood. It was driven by culture, by language, and by the way we perceive reality.
It's perception.
It's a story about how two groups of people can look at the exact same thing and see two completely different worlds.
So let's dive right into the text. The source sets the stage with this image of the early church. It says, the church was growing, but it was no longer moving together.
That is such a loaded phrase.
Growing, but not moving together. It's like a company that scales up too fast, and suddenly the New York office has no idea what the London office is doing, and the culture just starts to fray.
It's the classic problem of scale, but applied to the soul of a civilization.
Yeah.
When you are small, you are in the same room. You share a context. You breathe the same air. But as the church expanded across the Mediterranean, that shared context vanished.
Right.
And the source immediately pinpoints the specific wedge that started driving them apart. It says, what once spoke with one voice now spoke in different tongues.
Okay, let's unpack different tongues. On the surface, we are obviously talking about the language barrier. The East spoke Greek. The West spoke Latin. Simple enough, right?
Simple.
Google Translate didn't exist. But the source seems to imply this is way deeper than just not knowing the vocabulary words.
It is much, much deeper. The source makes this very specific, very philosophical distinction. It says, in the East, Greek shaped theology. In the West, Latin defined thought.
I circled that line 3 times. Greek shaped theology. Latin defined thought. That sounds incredible, but we need to break that down. What does that actually mean in practice?
Okay.
How does the language you speak change the way you think about God or the universe?
This is where we get into the concept of linguistic relativity, and it's fascinating. Think about the nature of those two languages. Ancient Greek is the language of philosophy.
Right, Plato, Aristotle.
Exactly. It is the language of Plato, of Aristotle. It is fluid. It is nuanced. It has a massive vocabulary for abstract concepts, for states of being.
He has multiple words for love.
Multiple words for love, multiple words for time. It's a language that is comfortable living in the abstract.
So it's a language built for poetry. It's built for the gray areas.
Precisely. It is built for mystery,
Yeah.
So when the East centered in Constantinople approached questions of the divine, they were doing it through a lens that allowed for and even encouraged philosophical speculation.
They were okay with not having a concrete answer for everything.
They were comfortable with the idea that some things are a mystery to be experienced, not a problem to be solved.
Okay, I get that. The East are the philosophers, the mystics. Now look at the West. Look at Rome. The source says Latin defined thought.
And think about what Latin is. Latin is the language of Rome.
Yeah.
Not the Rome of the poets, but the Rome of the Senate, the Rome of the legion, the Rome of law.
Ah, okay.
Latin is an engineering language. It is a legal language. It is built on concrete definitions, strict categories, and clear boundaries.
Yeah.
It's about clarity, authority, and duty.
So if the East is trying to write a poem about God, the West is trying to write a contract about God.
That is a brilliant analogy.
Yeah.
Yes. You have one side looking for the essence or the vibe of the divine, and the other side looking for the legal definition and the chain of command.
And the source suggests this created a fundamental incompatibility.
Yeah.
It wasn't just that they couldn't read each other's mail, it's that even if they translated the words perfectly, the intent was missing.
The mental framework was different. If you approach a problem like a lawyer, and I approach it like a poet, we are going to frustrate each other.
Oh, absolutely.
You will think I am being vague and evasive. I will think you are being reductive and missing the soul of the issue.
And that's exactly what happened. The source says they were shaping reality differently. And then you add the physical reality of the medieval world on top of that.
Which you can't forget.
The source has this haunting line, distance widened understanding.
We have to really pause and try to inhabit the headspace of the pre-modern world to get this.
Right.
Distance widened understanding. Today, distance is trivial. If I misunderstand your tone in an email, I just call you, we hop on a video chat, we fix it in 30 seconds.
Right, we have real-time error correction.
Exactly. But in the 9th or 10th century, distance was a wall.
A huge wall.
If you are the Pope in Rome and you send a letter to the Patriarch in Constantinople, that letter has to physically travel. It goes by horse over the Alps, maybe. It goes by ship across the Mediterranean.
And it faces storms,
Storms, pirates, wars. It takes weeks, maybe months to arrive.
And by the time it gets there?
By the time it gets there, the context in which you wrote it might be gone. The political situation could have changed completely.
And the person reading it.
The person reading it, they haven't seen your face in 20 years. They don't hear your tone of voice. They just see ink on parchment. And if they misunderstand it,
the reply takes another 3 months to get back to you.
At least.
So you're looking at a 6-month turnaround for a single, hey, what did you mean by that?
Precisely. And in that silence, in that massive gap created by disconnects, assumptions start to fester.
Right.
You start to fill in the blanks with your own biases. As the source says, culture shaped belief. If you are sitting in Rome, surrounded by Latin culture and Roman legalism, everything coming out of the East starts to look, well, strange.
It starts to look other.
It starts to look other. And the source explicitly says, what is normal in one place becomes strange in another.
That is such a universal human experience.
It is.
You go to a different country or even just a different region and their normal feels weird to you. But here, that weirdness isn't just about what time you eat dinner.
No.
It's about the eternal fate of your soul.
That is the stakes. When culture shapes belief, and you believe your belief is the only path to salvation, then someone else's culture looks like heresy. It looks like a threat.
Let's talk about some of those differences. The source alludes to the fact that they just started doing things differently.
Oh, absolutely. It was everything. Little things that have ballooned into huge problems.
Like what?
In the West, for example, the clergy were becoming celibate. In the East, married priests were the norm and still are.
Okay, that's a big one.
In the West, they used unleavened bread for communion. The East used leavened bread. Now, to us, these sound like minor details.
Right. Who cares about the yeast in the bread?
They cared immensely.
Why?
Because of that distance, because of that lack of communication, these small cultural differences became evidence that the other side was corrupted. Look at them, the West would say. They are using the wrong bread. They are clearly abandoning the traditions. And the East would say, look at the West. They are forcing priests to be celibate. That's unnatural. They're changing the rules.
It's the narcissism of small differences, amplified by 1,000 miles of silence.
Perfectly put.
Yeah.
And that creates a foundation of misunderstanding. You have different operating systems, Greek versus Latin, and massive physical distance.
So the table is set for a disaster.
A table is set, but you can usually survive being different. You can be friends with people who are different.
Right. Differences don't necessarily lead to a breakup.
No. But differences plus a power struggle.
That is fatal.
That is fatal. And that brings us to the political hardening described in the source.
Section 2, the clash of authority.
Right.
The source gets really specific here. It says politics hardened positions, and it sets up this clash between two very specific claims to power.
Yes. This is the core of the conflict. It wasn't just about bread. It was about who is the boss.
On one side, we have Rome. The text says Rome claimed authority through Peter.
This is the Petrine doctrine. It is the bedrock of the Roman Catholic worldview.
What does that mean exactly?
The argument is based on lineage, apostolic succession. Jesus gave the keys to the kingdom to Peter. Peter was the leader of the apostles. Peter went to Rome and was martyred there.
So the argument is the Bishop of Rome, the Pope, is Peter's direct spiritual heir.
He is the spiritual heir to Peter. Therefore, he has ultimate authority.
So Rome's argument is, we have the founder's proxy, it's in our DNA.
Correct. It's a spiritual vertical claim. And notice, this argument doesn't depend on how powerful Rome is as a city.
Right.
In the 9th and 10th centuries, Rome, the city, was a mess. It was ruins. It was chaos. But the Pope argued, it doesn't matter if the roof is leaking, I hold the keys of Peter.
It's an argument from legitimacy. I am the designated successor.
Exactly. Now, flip to the east, Constantinople.
Okay.
The source says they claimed honor through empire.
Which is a totally different vibes-based argument.
It is a completely different logical framework. Remember, while Rome was struggling through the Dark Ages, Constantinople was glorious.
The center of the world at the time.
It was the new Rome. It was the wealthiest, largest, most sophisticated city in the Christian world. The emperor lived there. The Senate was there.
So their argument was, look around. This is where the action is. This is where the power is.
Basically, yes. Their argument was that the church's structure should mirror the political reality.
Oh, interesting.
God has clearly blessed this empire. The emperor is God's vice-regent on earth. Therefore, the Patriarch of Constantinople, the bishop of the capital, should have a place of honor equal to Rome.
So Rome says, we have the roots, and Constantinople says, we have the fruit.
That is a perfect way to distill it. Rome relies on the past, Peter. Constantinople relies on the present, the empire.
And that these two claims are fundamentally incompatible.
If both sides want to be supreme, yes.
The text highlights this friction perfectly. It says, what was tradition in one place was questioned in another.
That is a dangerous moment in any relationship or organization. When something you consider to be a non-negotiable tradition, something sacred, something that just is suddenly gets questioned by your partner, it feels like an attack.
It feels personal.
It does. If Rome questions a practice of the East, like married priests, the East feels like their heritage is being insulted.
And if the East questions the Pope's authority,
Rome feels like the order of the universe is being challenged.
and the source lists the specific questions that started plaguing them, these sound like the kind of questions that tear apart corporate boards, but on a spiritual level.
Completely.
How should authority function? Who held final leadership? How should doctrine be expressed?
These are the administrative nightmares of the split. Who held final leadership? It's the ultimate question of sovereignty.
So is it a democracy or a monarchy?
That's a great way to put it. Is the church a democracy of bishops? That's what the East preferred. A council of equals, where they vote and reach consensus.
A collegial model.
Right. Or is it a monarchy with a pope at the top? That's what the West was moving towards.
It's like a corporate merger gone wrong. One company has a flat structure, the other has a strict hierarchy, and they are trying to decide who gets to sign the checks.
But imagine that the checks are the definitions of truth itself.
Wow, yeah.
How should doctrine be expressed? This refers to the famous filioque controversy, a debate about the wording of the creed.
I've heard of this. It's about one word, right?
It's about one word. The West added a single word, filioque, to the Nicene Creed. They thought it made the theology clearer.
And the East?
The East said, you can't touch the text. It was agreed upon by the councils. You are altering the deal.
That connects back to the Latin versus Greek thing, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
The West says, we need to edit this document for legal clarity, and the East says, this document is poetry and history, you don't edit it.
Exactly. And because politics hardened positions, as the source notes, there was no room for compromise.
Every disagreement became a power play.
Every theological edit became a political power play.
Yeah.
If Constantinople accepted Rome's edit, they were admitting Rome was the boss. If Rome backed down, they were admitting they didn't have the authority of Peter.
So everyone digs in, and this brings us to the timeline. I think this is one of the most critical takeaways from the source.
I agree.
When we hear 1054, we think, okay, something exploded that year. But the text says, centuries passed, tensions deepened.
It's the slow burn. The Great Schism wasn't an event. It was a process.
A drift.
It was a drift. The source says the Great Schism was not sudden, it was slow.
And councils failed to heal the fracture. That implies they tried, right?
Oh, they did?
They had meetings, they tried to fix it.
They did. There were numerous attempts at reconciliation over the centuries. Legates were sent back and forth, synods were held, but they were always talking past each other.
And the source gives us a devastating clue as to why they failed. It says, letters turn sharp. Letters turn sharp. I feel that in my bones.
I think everyone listening has received an email or a text where the tone just shifts.
It implies a degradation of charity. It's not just, I disagree with you. It becomes, you are wrong and you are acting in bad faith.
The assumption of negative intent.
Yes. When the letters turn sharp, you stop listening to the argument and start reacting to the tone.
It's the loss of the benefit of the doubt.
Yes. In the earlier centuries, if there was a misunderstanding, a bishop might say, oh, my beloved brother in the East probably just misspoke or the translation was bad.
Right.
But when the letters turn sharp, that grace evaporates. Suddenly, a mistranslation isn't an error, it's a trap. It's a heresy.
And the source follows that immediately with trust faded.
That is the nail in the coffin. Trust is the lubricant of any society or organization.
It's everything.
Once trust is gone, once trust faded, every action by the other side is interpreted in the worst possible light.
So if Rome sends a diplomat,
Constantinople doesn't see a peacemaker, they see a spy or a bully. And if Constantinople makes a theological point,
Rome doesn't see a brother in faith. They see a rebel.
it's a vicious cycle. The less you trust, the sharper the letters get.
And the sharper the letters, the less you trust. Exactly. And the source describes a trajectory where tensions deepened and positions hardened.
Was there a point of no return before 1054?
That's the million-dollar question. I think reading this source, the point of no return was when the trust faded. Once that was gone, the relationship was effectively dead.
You're just waiting for someone to officially call time of death.
Exactly.
Which leads us to the moment they called it. Section 4, the snap, the year 1054.
The year the break became final.
The source uses such interesting imagery here. It emphasizes the weapon of choice, it says. Not with armies, not with blood, but with words.
This is a profound irony.
Yeah.
Usually when empires split, think of the Roman Empire itself politically, or civil wars. It's violent, it's physical, people die. But this was a split caused by declarations.
The spiritual war.
It was a spiritual war fought with theological weapons.
Excommunications were declared.
We need to pause on the weight of that word.
Okay.
Excommunication. In the 11th century, this wasn't just being kicked out of a club. It wasn't just, we are unfriending you. This was being cut off from the body of Christ.
It meant you were damned.
It meant, literally, you are no longer part of the community of salvation. You are outside. It's the ultimate rejection.
And the way it happened in 1054 was incredibly dramatic.
Oh, it was theatrical.
Set the scene for us.
So, you have Cardinal Humbert. He's the representative of the Pope. He is in Constantinople. He's frustrated. The talks have broken down. The letters have turned sharp.
He's had enough.
He's had enough.
Yeah.
So on a summer day in July, he walks into the Hagia Sophia, the greatest church in Christendom at the time.
Okay.
The divine liturgy is happening. The church is packed.
Talk about making a scene.
He marches right up to the high altar, right in the middle of the service, and he slams down a papal bull of excommunication against the Patriarch of Constantinople.
Wow.
He turns around, shakes the dust off his feet, and walks out.
That is the ultimate sharp letter. That is a mic drop for the ages.
It was. And the Patriarch, naturally, didn't take it lying down.
I imagine not.
He picked up the bull, burned it, and excommunicated the Pope right back.
So they excommunicate each other.
They do. And the source describes the result simply, East and West stood apart.
The visual imagery of that is so powerful. Two entities, two brothers, simply turning their backs on one another.
Not fighting a war immediately, just turning away.
And walking into two different futures.
Yes.
That leads us to the aftermath, section 5. The source says, one church became two paths, and it names them, the Roman Catholic Church and the Eastern Orthodox Church.
This is the reality we still live with today.
Yeah.
If you look at a map of religious demographics in Europe, you can still see this line. It's a ghost line from 1054.
Where do you see it?
Poland is Catholic, Ukraine and Russia are largely Orthodox. Croatia is Catholic. Serbia is Orthodox. That line was drawn with words 1,000 years ago.
But here is the tragedy, and I think the source really wants us to feel this tragedy.
Yeah. It notes, both claimed continuity. Both guarded ancient faith.
This is the paradox of mirror images.
What do you mean by that?
Well, usually when a group splits, one side says, we are starting something new. We are the reform movement. You know, like the Protestant Reformation later on.
Right. They define themselves as new.
But here, neither side admitted to changing anything. Both sides claimed to be the original.
So the Catholics are saying, we are the original because we are with Peter.
Right, we are the true church because we have the Pope. You guys left.
And the Orthodox are saying,
no, we are the true church because we never changed the creed. We kept the traditions exactly as they were handed down. Rome is the one that innovated and drifted away.
So they're both standing there holding the exact same claim, looking at the other guy and saying, you moved, I didn't move.
Exactly. Both guarded ancient faith. They both genuinely believed they were protecting the truth from the other side.
And because they both believed they were right.
Because they were both so convinced of their own continuity, unity was lost. It's heartbreaking when you put it that way. It's not a story of good guys versus bad guys.
Right.
It's a story of two sides trying to protect something they love. And in the process of protecting it, they destroyed their relationship with each other.
That is a very astute observation. Sometimes being right becomes more important than being together.
The source wraps up with a final assessment that I found really moving. It says, it was human.
It was human. That phrase stops you in your tracks.
It really does, because we've been talking about divine revelation, God, eternity, the keys to the kingdom, all this high-level theology.
But the error, the break.
The source says it was human.
It brings it all back down to earth.
Yeah.
The source is reminding us that even institutions that claim divine origin are stewarded by people.
And people have egos.
People have egos. People have specific languages that limit their thoughts. People have politics. People have sharp letters.
It wasn't a failure of God. It was a failure of us.
It was human pride, human inability to bridge the distance, human stubbornness. The source is saying that despite the high theology, the mechanism of the schism was remarkably mundane. It was just people failing to understand people.
And the source ends with, its consequences remain.
We certainly do. As I mentioned, the cultural divide between the West and the East is still a defining feature of our world.
Well, you see it in geopolitics today.
All the time. The distrust between Western Europe and Russia, a lot of that traces back to this split, the differing concepts of authority. It's all still there. The distrust didn't just vanish.
I read somewhere that it took nearly 1,000 years just for a pope and a patriarch to meet again?
Yes. It wasn't until the 1960s, Pope Paul VI and Patriarch Athenagoras, that the excommunications were mutually lifted.
1965, I think.
They met and embraced.
Yeah.
That is 900 years of the silent treatment.
1,000 years of distance widening understanding.
Effectively, yes.
Yeah. So let's bring this home. We've looked at the source, we've seen the drift, we've seen the language barriers, the political posturing, the sharp letters, and finally, the snap. What does this all mean for us?
I think the lesson is about the fragility of connection. We tend to think that big things, nations, marriages, civilizations break with a bang.
A war, an explosion.
A war, an explosion. But the source tells us the Great Schism was not sudden. It was slow.
It's a warning about the slow drift.
It teaches us that the biggest breaks happen by degrees. A little misunderstanding here, a little hardening of position there, a letter that is a little too sharp, and suddenly you are oceans apart.
It's a warning about maintenance, isn't it?
Yes.
Whether it's a relationship, a company, or a society, you have to watch out for the drift.
You do. And you have to realize that just because you are speaking, it doesn't mean you are understanding.
That's a huge point.
Different tongues can exist even when you are both speaking English. If I'm speaking efficiency and you're speaking empathy, we might be in the same room, but we are drifting apart.
And you have to watch your tone. Letters turn sharp. That phrase is going to stick with me.
It should. When you feel your own letters turning sharp, that's the red flag. That's the moment the schism begins.
It's the symptom.
Not when the excommunication happens, but when the kindness leaves the conversation.
That is a powerful place to land. We started with a text about ancient history, and we ended up with a diagnostic tool for our own lives.
That's the beauty of deep history. It's a mirror.
Absolutely. East and West, the Great Divide, a story of words breaking the world.
And a reminder to choose our own words carefully.
So here's a final thought for you to mull over as you go about your day. The source told us this split was slow and human, finalized with words. If words in human nature were enough to break a millennium of unity in a world where communication took months, what does that say about the fragility of our modern global connections?
That's a good question.
We live in a world of instant communication, but are we actually understanding each other? Or are we just letting distance widen understanding at the speed of light?
Wow.
Are we sending sharp letters in 280 characters?
That is the question.
Are we building bridges? Or are we just excommunicating each other from our own little digital empires? Something to think about. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.